My name is Brown, John Brown. The date is May 30th, 1898, and this is my story. I am a young white man, 24 years old, and I used to be a farmer. But now I'm living in New York. But I only have been for no more than 5 years. I was just 18 when I came to the big city. Everything used to be so different, so much better for me. I grew up on a small farm in northern Alabama. I had such a happy life. I worked on the farm, growing corn, for the better part of my childhood. But all that ended around the same time industry started to skyrocket. More industry came to the farm. I guess this was supposed to make things more simple, but it seemed to do the opposite for me. When all these new technological advances were added to the farm, there was no need for all us workers. It was just like the farm could almost work itself. So many people lost their jobs, including myself. That's why I'm here in New York. I came here in 1893, 5 years ago, looking for work. Shortly after I arrived here, I moved into the tenements. The best experience since I came to New York City was finding a job in a steel mill. This was probably the greatest because I was so devastated after I lost my farming job in Alabama. I was living in the tenements, and I was getting concerned because I was running out of money to pay bills and buy goods like food and regular household items. I knew I had to get a job soon if I wanted to stay in the tenements and survive. Eventually I did. The worst experience I had since coming here was having an asthma attack one day at work. That day my supervisor sent me home, and I ended up having to stay there for months because my asthma was not getting any better. The setting of the tenements were not helping my condition either, because the air and water in the tenements were so detrimental to my health. While I was sick, the owner of the mill refused to pay me, so I was not able to buy goods for myself once again. The times just got worse from there with no income.
A decade now, and I've seen many come and go. Well, mostly come. This building is filled to the brim with people of all kinds. It's overflowing, but the steady income of people doesn't seem to ever end. Though we all vary from each other as individuals, we each suffer from the same simple things as human beings. We are lacking food, money, room, and sanitation, basics in general. I used to have a tad more space at one time. 4 cramped rooms made up my life once. Now, only 3. I remember one time I heard banging on my wooden door. Though the knocking was gentle, my thin door quaked. I opened the door and saw the owner of the building standing there, looking as if he had some news to share that wouldn't be pleasant for me to receive. Sadly, I was correct. He spoke quietly but still with force. He told me that they had to close off one of the rooms to my tenement to fit a new family in. I had to accept this. I couldn't just leave this place. These tiny rooms were my whole life. I adjusted with times. Things adapted themselves. But with so many people in this building, there were always new problems. There was this family once, the Wilsons, who had lived in the tenement next to me. This couple had a son, I suppose around the age of 12. One night, around 11, I heard a slam on the wall, and a wailing of tears to follow. The screaming that drunken father let out were horrifying to me. I'm sure it was terrible for the wife and son to hear as well. This made me cringe. It hurt me to sleep that night, knowing that their family was being ripped apart. The worst sound of all that I hear in this building are the sounds of sickness and death. The lack of cleanliness that lurks in these tenements are forever haunting me. One morning, maybe just a month ago, the older man who worked at the same steel mill as I, living right outside my apartment, was suffering. I could hear it. I woke up one morning around 5 and heard the sounds of wheezing and gagging. It's painful to listen to people as they suffer from these hideous ventilation. He was choking, almost gasping for breath. The sound came to an abrupt stop. I knew he was dead then, finally through with his suffering. The scariest part is that it will soon affect me in the same manner. I had this friend one time. He worked just as hard as anyone else in these apartments, just to earn a basic living. He supported his family of 3 kids and his wife as well. He was a good man. But just about a year ago, these conditions affected him too. No matter who you are or what you have to do in life, the air and water will affect you and eventually kill us all, one by one. He suffered from the dreadful case of smallpox. This is an airborne disease, which shows how unsanitary the ventilation is. This could have affected anyone in this building, but sadly, he was the victim. I believe that people are unable to live, even during their very numbered days, in an almost enjoyable way, because they are forced to endure the immense amount of suffering just to survive. Life in these tenements is barely worth striving for. We can work all day making minimal amounts of money to come back to these caves. It's not worth trying anymore. I don't see why I would bother pushing on in this life just to die from some vicious disease. People in this building are just waiting to die. Life is barely worth the effort in these conditions. I fear that I may never escape this hell. No one around me is healthy, mentally or physically. I don't want to end the same way.
Since the cleanliness of this air is so poor, many other people are being harmed by it too. Tenement residents are having problems with the ventilation, so they went to the government and tried to persuade them to fix the ventilation and try to advance it. The government said they would try to do whatever they could, but we all waited and waited to see a change, but we never did. Nothing was changed. I don't expect to live for very long if these conditions continue to maintain their current status, or if they get worse. With the poor circumstances of the air, my asthma has gotten more severe since I came to the city. I can't go back to work until it gets better, but the lack of ventilation in the tenements is affecting my health. Since I have been home so much, I have gotten cholera from the infected water supply they give to us. Coming to the city has caused my health to plummet. John Brown was a farmer in Alabama. He moved to New York in 1893. Brown became a steel mill worker. He died due to poor ventilation in the tenement and unhealthy air in the city. His asthma became so bad, causing Brown an extremely early death. He died at the young age of 34.